What's up guys, Sio here with week 1 of the PU Battlegrounds. If you missed my draft recap video, this is basically a quick 6-week tournament between the NES Season 3 and Season 4, where we are getting to test specifically most of Tier 4 and Tier 5. Every team gets one Tier 3 Pokemon and then a bunch of Tier 4 and Tier 5s to be able to fill it out. So it's a fun, like, lower tier battling for our league format, which is kind of interesting because we haven't really done that before. If you missed my draft recap, I'll try to remember to put a link down in the description below, but this week we are taking on MDSMVP, coach of the Detroit Darkrais. We actually helped him get the first seed in the NES Season 3 by beating the other first seed, I guess. So we actually do have a decent history against him, even though he's obviously a very good battler. And this week I think we have a pretty good team matchup. I'll go ahead and just preview the team I have here. First up is Citrus Berry, Unburdened Slurpuff, with Belly Drum, Play Rough, Drain Punch, and Facade. Enough HP, so basically when I use Belly Drum, it takes me down to half. I use the Citrus Berry, get back up to 75%, and I get Unburdened, so basically if I click Belly Drum on the right turn, I win. The opportunities for that are limited, but I'll get into that here, I guess. But with enough HP to be able to do that, max attack and max speed. Next up is Leftover Sturdy Steelix with Stealth Rock, Protect, Earthquake, and Dragon Tail. Protect's just to get a little bit of Leftover's HP back. Stealth Rock's mostly there for other stuff, to be honest, but it can do decent chip damage, and then Earthquake and Dragon Tail are just for damage and phasing. Just trying to make sure nothing sets up in Steelix's face, I guess. Next up is Leftover's Regenerator, Alomomola. If you don't know, Regenerator basically makes it so when I switch out, I get a third of my HP back. With Wish, Toxic, Protect, and Knockoff, max HP, max defense, and a little bit of attack just to make Knockoff do something, I guess. Basically this thing's here just to pass wishes and toxic stuff. If I need it to knock off an item, I can do that too. Next up is Lumberry, Bulletproof, Kommo-o with Dragon Dance, Close Combat, Dragon Claw, and Ice Punch, max attack, max speed, and a little bit of SPDF. It'll be a little bit easier for me to set Kommo-o this game than it will be to set up Slurpuff. It seems like he went pretty hard on trying to make sure he didn't get Slurpuff swept, which is good on him, but good news is that Kommo-o kind of has a good matchup too then. Next up is Leftovers, Levitate, Mismagius. Yes, I'm running 3 things with Leftovers, and I'm also running 3 things with Protect, since Mismagius has Protect, Will-O-Wisp, Shadow Ball, and Mystical Fire. Will-O-Wisp and Shadow Ball kind of by themselves, like, tear apart this team. He has 2 normal types, but neither normal type wants to be burned because it's a physical, unless it has Facade, I guess. But neither wants to be burned, and both are naturally outsped by Mismagius. Slackings normally run Choice Scarf, but that's why I have Protect. So basically I can see what it locks itself into, and then get a free Will-O-Wisp on something as it has to go for Truant and sit around and do nothing. So it should end up actually having a pretty good matchup this game. And then finally we have Fire MZ plays Blaziken with Flare Blitz, Thunder Punch, High Jump Kick, and Agility. Max attack, max speed, and a little bit of SPDF. So he has Tangrowth, Slacking, Jellicent, Bronzong, Sawsbuck, and Dusclops. And I guess for reference, I left behind Kamala, Vikavolt, Garbodor, Archeops, Alolan Persian, and Musharna, and he left behind Type Null, Hitmontop, Electrode, Electivire, Xatu, and Zangoose. So it's a lot of previewing, but basically what we have with my 6 versus his 6 is a lot of surprise duplicate typing. I could tell that he was pretty scared from Mismagius and Slurpuff, but by bringing 2 normal types, that instantly makes my 2 fighting types have a pretty good matchup, especially since his only psychic type is Bronzong, who normally attacks physically. So again, Mismagius has a good matchup because I can either just go for Shadow Ball or Will-O-Wisp and be fine. Alomomola actually sets up on a lot of this team as well. I gotta be careful of the grass types, obviously, but otherwise I should pretty much be able to freely pass wishes off. I'm gonna try to avoid getting Toxic, because that'll be the only thing that really, like, slows me down and prevents me from being able to Toxic stall if I need to. Like I was saying, Slurpuff actually kind of has a hard matchup this game. Jellicent, Bronzong, and Slacking are all pretty bulky physically. and I don't really have a ton of opportunities to set up, or glaring opportunities to set up, I guess. So I have to be pretty careful about that. So Slurp Up will probably just be sitting in the back for most of this game until I clear out the threats, I guess. But one thing that I did notice during prep is that MDS kind of has a lot of repeat typing on his team, and not just he has a water psychic type and a water dark type or something like that. He just has a lot of mono repeating types on his team. So I figured that kommo-o and Blaziken and Mismagius would actually all have great matchups this game. Steelix and Alomomola obviously have to watch out for the grass types, but if I can pivot around those, which I can with kommo-o since it resists, as well as Blaziken, which also resists, I should be okay. So I'm going to go and start off with this Magius because, like I've been saying this entire time, it doesn't really have a switch in this game. You can kind of play around it a little bit, but it doesn't really have a good switch in. And he leads Bronzong, which I kind of expected. I expected either Bronzong to get up rocks early, Desklops to frisk something, or Slacking just to fire off a huge hit turn 1. Either way, Mismagius was a good switch in for all of those. I can either go for a Will-O-Wisp here, or I can go for a Shadow Ball. I predict him to turn 1 double into a normal type, so I'm just going to go for a Will-O-Wisp. A little bit over and over prediction as he gets rocks up, but like I was saying, I don't really care, because he's able to not do as much damage if he's physical. It's kind of an assumption on my part that he would be physical, but a lot of Bronzongs are, so I figured that he would probably just be Zen Headbutt, Gyro Ball, Stealth Rock, 4th coverage move maybe, I guess. It wouldn't have blown me away to see Shadow Ball here, but I figured I could just kind of stay in and do damage here. No real reason not to. You frisk my leftovers, which isn't really the end of the world, and you can see that that does a 3rd. I could stay in and just try to Shadow Ball, but odds are this thing has Pain Split or Nightshade or something, so I don't really want to take that much damage to my Mismagius right away. So I'm just going to go Steelix and see what he wants to do. The odds of him straight up Will-O-Wisping me are pretty rare, and he goes for a Disable, which is interesting. I guess his plan was to basically take a Shadow Ball with me, Disable, and then probably Pain Split back up, if I had to guess. So now scouting the Will-O-Wisp, I'm actually going to just double straight into a Alomomola. I'm at full health, so I don't really want to take a Will-O-Wisp and break my Sturdy. And Alomomola doesn't really mind being burned. My knockoff does 8% now instead of 16%, so whatever. There's really no reason for me not to go for a knockoff here, though. Everything on his team still has an item, as far as I know, and I'm in against a Ghost type who doesn't really appreciate losing its item. He makes the right switch and just goes Bronzong, as I knock off its leftovers as well. So Bronzong can't really do anything to me, especially burn, so I get a free wish here pretty much. As he sets up a Trick Room, which shows that this is his main way of dealing with how fast my team is compared to his. Interestingly enough, I didn't actually really notice that my team vastly outsped his, I guess. I did have a couple of things at 115 and base 105 speed, but I didn't really think that he would actually go hard Trick Room against me. So after seeing Trick Room, I realized that he's probably a very hard Trick Room team, seeing as how Bronzong, Desklops, and Jellicent all get Trick Room, which is kind of interesting, I guess, because Slacking and Sawsbuck don't really strike me as Trick Room attackers. So I figure his best modes of Trick Room attacking are probably the things that set Trick Room themselves. And I don't really have a problem against Bronzong, Jellicent, or Desklops offensively, I guess. And the good news is I have 3 things with Protect, so if worse comes to worse, I can basically just switch into any of them and stall out, trigger him as long as I need to. So I'm going to Wish Pass here into Steelix, because there's nothing that I can do. He does show that he's physical, and it does absolutely nothing. Probably one of the smallest wishes Alomomola will be passing off this season, as it only passed 6% health. But good news is I'm back up to Sturdy. He obviously can't touch my Steelix now, so I might as well just get rocks up while I have a free turn. And here Trick Room has 2 turns left. I wanted to pause it before I actually made my move, but after the turn rolled over. So Trick Room has 2 turns left. I don't want to switch directly into my counter for this because then I'm still going to be under Trick Room and have to take a hit. So what I want to do first, even though it seems pretty passive, is I want to go for a protect here, see what he wants to do, and then play accordingly as Trick Room runs out. He goes for a knockoff, which is actually perfect. So I'm just going to, as you can see, go Blaziken. He could have read me here and gone for an Earthquake on the switch, but I don't think he has it based on how he played this game. So he goes for a knockoff because I am Z Crystal, it doesn't actually knock anything off, and because I'm a fighting type, it's resisted, so it only does like 20%. I could fire off the Z Flare Blitz here if I want to, but I don't really want to quite yet. It's pretty clear that I am a Z Crystal, or potentially a no item Blaziken based on the fact that knockoff didn't actually knock off anything. So I expect him to play safe, at least this first switch. So I'm actually going to go for a Thunder Punch here because Jellicent seems like the most, the easiest thing for him to switch into. He could go Dusclops just because its natural bulk should be able to take a Flare Blitz, but since Jellicent resists it and already has good defense, it's probably the safer switch here. So as he switches for Jellicent, I actually am going to go for my Thunder Punch, which is nice. Unfortunately, because of his leftovers, it puts him out of range of me, like, guaranteed being able to kill him. I could have risked the roll here if I wanted to, but honestly, Blaziken's a little too important for that. So I'm just going to play it safe. He can't really touch a Alomomola, so I might as well. And he shows Trick Room number 2. Again, I'm in with a Alomomola, so I can kind of just wish stall, wish pass stuff. I might as well try to go for a knockoff too, just get rid of an item if I want to. I end up just deciding to wish pass because I'm going to try to stall out Trick Room a little bit longer anyway. In here I'm a little bit confused why he went Dusclops right away, because Dusclops isn't offensive, like, at all. So I figure that his best plan here is to actually Pain Split, because Dusclops has really low base HP, and Alomomola, it's like by far best stat is its HP. Basically anytime he comes in and gets a Pain Split, he's going to be going back to full unless I'm down to like 20% or something like that. So I don't want that to happen because Dusclops is bulky and annoying. So I'm just going to go hard Mismagius here. I'm going to allow him to Pain Split back up a little bit, but then I get my wish and get back up to full, so it's fine. I can go ahead and go for a Protect here if I want to, just to stall a Trick Room a little bit longer. But it's actually a little bit better for me to just kind of spam Shadow Ball here. And the reason is that there's 2 turns of Trick Room left, so I can assume that Shadow Ball knocks him down to about a third, Pain Split basically heals him back up pretty much, Shadow Ball knocks him down to a third again, Pain Split heals him up a little bit less because I'm down to like 80%, then Trick Room runs out, and then the third Shadow Ball should actually kill. So he goes for a Will-O-Wisp, I guess protecting me to double again, but as I go for the Shadow Ball, it's nice because he's like down to a range where it's not really going to help much. Again, Pain Splits back up, Shadow Ball down to a third. Because he actually Will-O-Wisp that turn though, Trick Room being up means that my strategy works even better, because I don't have to take another Pain Split or 2 to be able to actually do stuff. So even though it's like very obvious that I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball here, I'm just going to keep doing it. He goes Tangrowth, and as you can see from the Shadow Ball damage, it's probably Assault Vest, because Tangrowth doesn't really have the best defense, or the special defense in the world. And it's very tempting for me to just go for the Mystical Fire here, because I'm pretty sure it'll kill. But again, Mismagius is pretty important in this game, so I don't really want to risk it on pretty sure when I have a switch that has shown, at least so far, that it's pretty safe in Blaziken. If I was feeling a little bit riskier this game, I could have just gone for the Mystical Fire and probably killed this thing based on the Shadow Ball damage. But I didn't want to risk it, so let's go Blaziken again. He doubles into Bronzong, which I guess is fun. I don't know if he was just trying to sack Bronzong at this point or not, but Mystical Fire still would have done a fuck ton to that too, so I don't really know. At this point, no nothing on his team wants to take a Z Flare Blitz into a Thunder Punch. I'm pretty much fully expecting him to double back into Jellicent here, but at the range of health it's at, it can't take a Z Flare Blitz, and it definitely can't take the Thunder Punch after that. So, free kill, so I'm just going to fire it off. Good news is he stays in with Bronzong, so it's like more than overkill. I would have been a little upset that I used my Z move on that, but honestly I kind of needed to keep myself at a decent amount of health. Flare Blitz would have done a lot of recoil damage, so I'm pretty okay with sparing my recoil and health for now. And in comes Slacking, which is the biggest offensive threat on his team, or at least this team specifically, I guess. So now I have to be pretty careful because he's a likely Scarf set. Most Slackings run something like Retaliate to be able to get a revenge kill, Earthquake just for coverage, and then some kind of coverage to normally hit a Ghost type, just because they are normally pretty hard walled by Ghost types, especially Mismagius. I could make a really hard read here and just go Mismagius, assuming that he's going to go for an Earthquake or Retaliate or something. But again, I don't want to lose such an important Pokemon on an over-prediction at this point of the game. I feel like I pretty much have had momentum from start to finish, and I don't want to give that up by over-predicting here. So I'm going to go Steelix because there's nothing he can do to OHKO me. Basically, like, even if he went for a fighting type attack, it wouldn't have OHKO'd. Earthquake does 45, which is annoying, but whatever. He's obviously forced to switch out because Slacking's ability is Truant, which means that if you stay in for multiple turns, every other turn you're basically just not doing anything. It's the reason Slacking's tier 5, and it's the reason that it kind of is very hard to use in competitive, because you have a super powerful Pokemon that only attacks every other turn, unless you constantly keep switching out, which can also be played around. So I just went ahead and go for the Earthquake because nothing on his team really wants to take it. If he would have went Tangrowth, I guess he could have gotten free damage off, but he went Jellicent, which means that the next Earthquake should kill. Again, this game's all about me not wanting to really risk anything at this point because there's no real reason for me to. So back into Alola I go to pass some more wishes. He goes for Recover, which is fine, I guess. And I realized that I could go for a knockoff here, but a Toxic is actually a better play, and I'll explain it after I do the damage here. So Toxic to anyone on his team, obviously Toxic to them, and obviously made it so they can't stay in for very long. To Jellicent specifically, it was one of his like biggest walls remaining, so I figured being able to whittle it down, especially since it couldn't touch Alola, would probably be good because I could just Wish Protect Stall it if I needed to. If he went Dusclops like he did, the first turn of Toxic damage plus Stealth Rocks puts him in range of a knockoff actually killing, which is kind of funny. I put knockoff on here like strictly for utility purposes, but it's actually going to end up getting a kill here or knocking off an item, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go for it because I wasn't expecting Alola to get a kill, but it might as well, I guess. I also did not want him pain splitting back up to full. I also didn't really want him setting up Trigger Room at this point. Not that I really thought that it helped him, really, but I didn't really want him setting it up anyway. So, pretty obvious to go Tangrowth there, I guess. So again, I'm just going to make my obvious play and switch Blaziken. I can take any hit, such as an Energy Ball that he wants to go for. I was still kind of afraid at this point that he was hiding Earthquake and just being overly passive about it, because if he would have went for Earthquake, it would have killed there. But now nothing on his team wants to take a Flare Blitz into the next incoming hit. Odds are Flare Blitz is going to kill me here because all of his stuff's at pretty high HP, but I'm just going to fire off a little bit of damage while I still have Blaziken left. He stays in with Tangrowth, which is surprising. I guess he was expecting me to probably Thunder Punch there, predicting Mismagius again, but I didn't, or predicting Jellicent to come in, but I didn't want to over-predict at this point in the game because, again, I feel like I kind of have control at this point. When you're in control of Pokemon games, you don't really need to predict as much. You kind of just need to go for the safe play and let your opponent play around it. So now that Slacking and Mismagius are in, I'm convinced that he's going to go for whatever his thing to hit Mismagius is, I guess. Or he obviously can't hit me with Retaliate because I'm a Ghost type. He can't hit me with Earthquake because I have Levitate. So he's probably going to go for either Pursuit or a Shadow Claw here. I'm going to finally show Protect on Miss Magius because I've been hiding it this entire time specifically to get momentum here. And now there's a free Will-O-Wisp at my hand, so I might as well just go for it. I figured he was probably going to go Jellicent, but at this point, this is kind of a very, very, very scary position for him to be in, because Jellicent's 2-hit KO'd by Shadow Ball at this point, and nothing else on his team actually wants to take a Will-O-Wisp. So at this point, I'm basically just trying to keep Miss Magius healthy and keep it in threatening for as long as possible. To this point in the battle, he's shown absolutely no reason for me not to go Alola on Jellicent. I obviously don't have Scald, so whatever. His Scald is going to do absolutely nothing as I again get a free Wish Pass up. Interestingly, I kind of want to pause it here because this is a setup that I had in practice that actually didn't really end up working in the game. So I have a Wish incoming to whatever I want to on my team. In most situations in my practice games, actually, I could just pass into kommo-o here, get a Dragon Dance, and end up sweeping. Because his Jellicent's at a high enough health, I don't really want to do that though, because I would be forced to go for 2 Dragon Dances because I'm assuming that Slacking is Choice Scarfed, because Slacking's base 100 speed and kommo-o's base 85, I think. I basically have to get up to +1 to match basically being scarfed in my speed, and then I have to get up to +1 again to be able to outspeed him. Technically speaking, I can do that because I have a Lumberry, so as long as I don't get burned on the first Scald, there's not really very much that he can do about it. But again, at this point in the battle, there's really no reason for me to risk that. I don't want to, like, I tend to get kind of unlucky in Pokemon games sometimes, so I didn't want to risk coming in, getting burned, using my Lumberry, trying to set up a Dragon Dance, and then getting burned again, and then it not mattering. Honestly, the attack boosts from Dragon Dance weren't really as important as the speed boost from Dragon Dance, but I did need a little bit of attack boost to be able to break through this Jellicent, so I didn't really want to risk it. So instead of passing into kommo-o, I could pass into Slurpuff here if I want to, but again, it's the same kind of thing. And he could also go for a Trick Room with Jellicent, which is obviously not very good for an Unburdened user, because then it just means I'm super, super slow compared to everything else. So as much as I really want to go either of my setup sweepers here, because it's a golden opportunity, I'm just going to go back into Miss Magius, because I could have taken a Scald. He went for a Recover, which is even better. And now I'm in absolutely perfect position to just spam Shadow Ball, even though he has 2 normal types, because neither normal type wants to get burned. He gets a crit, which is unfortunate and basically undoes everything that I was trying to do with the Wish Pass, but it's fine. I can still spam Shadow Ball, because even if he goes into his normal type like he does here, I just click Protect and then Will-O-Wisp. He's able to read that well and pivot into a Sawsbuck as my Protect fails, and he's able to read that again as he Baton passes into Jellicent on the Will-O-Wisp. But as you can see, he's not actually like really getting anywhere with all of this pivoting. Like he's not even stalling me down with burn damage because I have leftovers. And his burn is wearing him down as well as rocks damage. So MDS is pivoting really well around my Miss Magius, but ultimately it's not really doing anything, I guess. And I think he was expecting me to overpredict here, but as I've done all game for the first time, I'm actually not going to overpredict because there's literally no reason for me not to. I just come in, click Protect again, and then get a burn off on something again. I think at this point he realizes that his Sawsbuck is actually a little bit more important than his Slacking, because I can just hard wall it with 3/5 of my team. But there's no reason for me not to just kind of go kommo-o on a burn Slacking, because even if it went for like a Stab Facade or something, I don't think it was really gonna end up doing very much to kommo-o after I set up. Since Sawsbuck is a normal grass type, I actually have perfect advantage here with kommo-o as well. Nothing on his team wants to take a close combat, but I also don't really want to risk a crit on like a jump kick or something like that killing me. So even though this actually is a good opportunity for me to just set up Dragon Dances and end the game here with kommo-o, I'm just going to go for a close combat. He shows Headbutt, which is interesting. I guess he could have been a Scarf set, actually, now that I think about it, and just try to get Headbutt flinches, I guess. So I could sack kommo-o here and just go into whatever switch I wanted. But seeing as how Steelix actually hard walls any kind of slacking that's burned, I might as well just go to it. Save the differential for the first time I think I've ever done that. And as you can see, he was Scarf Retaliate, but because I'm a normal type with a ridiculous amount of defense, it doesn't actually end up mattering. And then I just go for the Earthquake to wipe him out. So, good game, MDS. I feel like that was actually one of the first battles I've had on the channel where I was pretty much in control from start to finish and finally didn't make some dumb play to give it up. I feel like I've had a couple of battles where I've started off the battle really well, make a couple good predictions, and then I kind of started to play a little bit safe towards the middle. But not like good safe, just like making really predictable plays and allowing my opponent to get back into it. This time I feel like I risked it when I needed to risk it, and I didn't risk it when I didn't need to risk it. Which is good, finally. I've been telling myself to do that for probably like a year and a half or 2 years now since I've been doing this, and finally it's coming through. So, good game, MDS. Good luck in the NES Season 3 playoffs, which I believe you're having your match today, if not today, soon, so good luck with that. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how the team performed this week. Blaziken only died to recoil, so MDS actually didn't even get a kill, which is cool. And I feel like it was a pretty commanding battle from start to finish, so I'm excited to go forward. Next week we take on Beard and the New York Aqua Jets. He hasn't actually done his week 1 PUBG battle, so I don't know how he's doing this season, but him and I always have fun games. Last season I ended up sweeping him with a Calm Mind Tapu Fini, but other than that our games are actually pretty close a lot of the time. So looking forward to it. Drop a like and subscribe if you guys are interested in seeing more stuff. If you have any sets that you want to see, please leave them down in the comments below. The tournament's only 6 weeks, but it's also not like a super serious tournament, so if you see anything on my roster that you've always really wanted to see, like a gimmick set for, just shoot it my way and I'll see if I can try to work it in. I really like gimmick sets, so just show me what you got, I guess. So thanks guys, I'll see you next week and have a good one.